friends, welcome back to my Practically Imperfect Life. Today I thought I would just switch gears a little bit and focus a little bit more on us moms. So today I thought I would kind of reflect back on some of my favorite things from different categories that I just found that I loved in 2022. And maybe these would just give you a couple of ideas on things that you might want to try in 2023 or, want to treat yourself with as we go into a new year. So in the home category, I actually have three things that were kind of my favorite, and they're all pretty varied. I inherited wedding china from my parents, and my husband inherited wedding china from his, and then we bought Christmas china. So we had china kind of coming out of our ears, and we used to store it all in the kitchen cabinets, but it was taking up so much space in the kitchen cabinets. And I was like, this is just, it's a waste of space. I need to put other things in here. So I had purchased on Facebook Marketplace like a china cabinet, and it has storage like cupboard space underneath. But I didn't know, quite how I was going to, keep the china safe and separate and things like that. So I found these collapsible china storage containers on Amazon. So it comes as a set. You get the smaller size one. So this is good for like dessert dishes. There are ones that are big enough for bowls, ones that are the size for dinner plates, and then there are ones that are meant for like coffee cups or teacups. And so I didn't bring all of them out there to show you, but it comes with plenty of room for all of my china. And then they even include these kind of little soft, I don't know what you call them, but they're just like kind of like soft little pads that you can put in between the plates and bowls and things like that within the container, so that way nothing gets chipped or bumped and scratched and things like that. So I actually have 3 sets of this. I purchased 3 sets, and you could label them. There's a spot where if you wanted to create a label and put a label in, you could do so. I don't. I just have them in the cabinet where all of the ones for one china set are together. And then I can easily pull things out, set them out for holidays and special occasions, wash them, put them back in there, and then they are stored safely out of the way. So in the last 2.5 years, we have really transitioned from having mostly carpeted floors in the house to having almost all vinyl plank floors. When it was just the kitchen and the bathrooms that, had floors that needed to be mopped, I would just, use a bucket and a sponge and I would mop it the old school way. But with the sheer amount of square footage that I now have to mop, I found this spin brush mop that has just been, again, a lifesaver for my back and a time saver. And it's so easy, even my husband can do it. So it has a case on the front where you put in a certain amount of water and cleansing solution. And then there are 2 different kinds of pads that go on the bottom. So there is one pad that's more of a smooth one, and there's one that's more textured. So if you have a spot that's a little dirtier or has a hard to clean spot, you can pop those onto there. You just set the mop right onto the pads and then turn it on, spray a little bit of your cleansing solution, and then the mop will do the rest. So the 2 bottom parts, they'll spin, and you just kind of keep going. And when you're done, you pull those off, throw them in the wash them, dry them, and then you have them ready for the next time that you need to mop. It has just made mopping so much easier and so much faster, and just, I don't have to get on my hands and knees to mop anymore. And that's a good thing. In general, I think we've kind of seen a decline in mail being sent and sending cards and things like that. But I have always thought there is just something special about writing a note in a card and sending it to someone. And I've always wanted to be better at doing that, keeping up with things. I thought, well, if I could just have a set of cards here at home that if something pops up, I could just grab it and send it, I'd be much more likely to write more of those notes and send more of those letters and things like that. So I got on Amazon and I actually ordered multiple different sets of cards, and each one had a variety of them. So I have cards that are thank you cards, congratulations, some that are just blank for filling in certain holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, things like that. So most of them came in sets that looked kind of like this. This is actually one of the boxes that I still have. There we go. And inside it had just a whole bunch of different cards. Amazon has just a wide variety that you can choose from. I'll link the ones I purchased below to show you, but there's just all different kinds of cards on here that you can pick out and send for different occasions. Now, what I did is I went to Michael's, and let me lift it up here. I got one of these boxes. So you see it usually sitting behind me here on our table. So it's just one of the lift up boxes, and inside, oh, let's see if I can hold it. Inside, I have all of the cards that I purchased. One of the sets had little index tabs in it, already separating the cards. So I repurposed those. I put those in here and I separated the cards from all of the different sets with their envelopes into here. So now if something comes up, I can just flip right through here and I can find a card that I want to send. So my more reasonable splurge this year was to get a second MacBook Air. And we got this because we just found that we just needed more computers in the household. I have a Mac desktop. We already had one MacBook Air, but with me working on the computer and both my kids working on the computer, we were constantly passing them back and forth. And it was just easier to go ahead and switch and buy another one because we knew we were going to use it. And eventually I can send one of them, off with my daughter to college if it's still working well at that point. We also really like the MacBooks because we all have AirPods and we can have them automatically connect with the laptop, which means if we're watching videos or things like that, we can make sure that we're not disturbing the other people working around us. Programs run really, really quickly on this. The battery charge holds up very well. And overall, it's just a wonderful tool for our homeschool and for daily life. My son's logged in currently, so you can see his Spider-Man screensaver there. The other thing we have gotten for both of our MacBook Airs are these cases from Caseify. If you've never checked out their website, they make different types of kind of high quality protective cases for phones. I think they do AirPod cases too, but they also do them for laptops. And so you can kind of customize and design different designs that I have on there. So this is the one that they chose for this one. We have another one on our other MacBook Air that's more floral. It was worth the extra money to get that to protect something that to me was a big splurge and a big investment for our homeschool. So y'all know I'm a really big gardener. I love working outside, and I did a ton of planting this year. And at the start of the year, it was a lot of bending over and digging through hard compacted soil. I mean, where we live in Indiana, we have a lot of clay-based soil, and it was really starting to, get on my nerve. Like, it was really frustrating because my back was sore every day working in the garden. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to throw my back out doing this. So I went ahead and I bought some gardening augers. So I actually have two different sizes. I have a 3-inch one and I have a 7-inch one. And I purchased these. These are from, I think it's called Power Planter. I'll link them down below. I found them on Amazon. They were recommended by Laura, who has a YouTube channel called Garden Answer. And she actually has some entire videos where she shows the different types of augers they use for different projects. And you do have to have a special drill for the larger augers for them to be able to work because it has to have enough power to be able to turn it. But if you are like me and you're middle-aged and getting older, but you still want to garden, these are just wonderful tools to have because you can dig holes standing upright. You hold the drill and it digs the hole. You do have to have enough strength to, keep it steady, but it keeps you from having to, bend over and constantly be shoveling and things like that. You get good size, precise holes, and you can just, whip them out much more quickly. So it was a wonderful investment for the garden, and really excited to be able to continue using those tools next spring and summer when I'm putting in even more plants. The other thing that I really enjoyed doing this year is I bought almost 1,000 new bulbs to put into my yard. I had done daffodils years and years and years ago and they were starting to peter out. So I said, you know what? I am going to just plant a whole bunch of bulbs, tulips and daffodils and hyacinths and things like that. So in the spring, we have just some beautiful color coming up in the yard. And I ordered my bulbs from Color Blends. And I do recommend if you're going to do bulbs that you're going to plant in the fall, look at their website and order them early. I think I placed my order in the beginning of July. And they won't ship them until it's the ideal planting time for your area. So mine, didn't even arrive until we got to like October, which was perfect because that was the time that they needed to go into the ground. But they have a huge selection of just gorgeous bulbs. And when they came, they were all in really good shape. Some of them were ones where you could see that they were starting to branch off and form a second bulb. Like you could split it and get two bulbs out of the one you paid for. And we're just really looking forward to the show that we know is going to happen in early spring. All right, in kind of the skin beauty category, I am not a big makeup person. And if you wanted to watch a tutorial on how to do like special contouring or all that stuff, I'm not your girl. I could not help you with that. In fact, probably 75% of the time I go with no makeup. Like I just run around with no makeup because I don't care. And when I'm working out in the garden all day, I don't want a bunch of makeup on my face. I just sweat it off anyways. But I am getting older. I am 38, and you start to kind of see it in your skin, especially if you're out in the sun a lot. So I have found this moisturizing. It's called Hydrogel Cream from Honest Brand. And maybe there it is. And this is just a nightly moisturizing cream. It goes super, super far. Like it's just, a regular cream. It takes very little to cover your whole face and even down to your neck. Put it on at night after you've done your face washing. And I'll tell you what, my face just feels so, I don't know, so moisturized after I use it. I mean, I can feel it kind of soaking in, and like I don't feel greasy. I think that's kind of one of the downsides of some moisturizers, that you put them on and then you just feel like, kind of like when you put on sunscreen and then you feel like your whole face is all greasy and weird feeling. You don't get that feeling with this. The other nice thing is that Honest Brand is very particular on the ingredients they use in all of their products. I actually, in some of my gift guide videos, I've talked about their makeup products that my daughter uses and why we veered towards them, because I didn't want her putting a bunch of junk on her face. And so I've really just liked their skincare products. I do use their facial cleansers, and I use their retinol cream and everything, but their moisturizer has been great. So crafts was really hard for me to narrow down because I quilt and I do other sewing and I Bible journal. I mean, I do a lot of crafty things. But really one that stood out to me this year was bullet journaling. Now, last year I had this little bullet journal that I got off Amazon because I was just getting into it. And bullet journaling, I mean, the pages I'll show you a blank one here, but they have the little grid pattern for you to follow to be able to create designs and pictures or organize things however you want to use it. And you can totally customize it. And I was using it mostly for keeping track of like my daily mood, and a gratitude journal, and tracking habits and tracking things I read, in addition to my daily planner. And so this year I thought, well, I'm going to combine it all together and do it all in one. So I got this really pretty one from Notebook Therapy from my husband for Christmas. So it's obviously much bigger than the previous one. And I thought I would show you pages from this one because my other one is all filled out. But I keep track of everything in here now. So I have like I created all of these pages, and these really didn't take very long. I mean, I did a couple of hours over a few days. But this is like where my planner stuff will be. So I have a page set up like this for each week of the year, so I can go ahead and keep, track of dates and things like that. And then on the different months, you can create, like custom cover pages. I've done that. I have trying to find ones I haven't done a whole lot of writing in. Like I created like a habit tracker and a mood tracker, since I really do love reading. I have like a page where I created like this little bookcase to do like a TBR. So books that I know I want to read in the upcoming year, I can keep track of those. I have a page where I have like reading prompts to myself, so I can write in titles of books that fit those prompts and try to encourage myself to do more reading. I'll tell you what, it takes some time. This isn't something that, was done in just one day. I mean, it did take me several hours over a couple of days, but it was so therapeutic to sit there and, draw these things out. And I use stencils and stickers and washi tape and, rulers and things like that. And I'm no grand artist. I mean, nothing in here is perfect. But there was just something really therapeutic about sitting and putting that stuff in there, being able to customize it to myself. If I knew I wanted to have a couple pages for garden planning, some pages for Christmas planning. So I created those in there. And so it is a totally customized planner. Now, books are a huge part of my life. I love to read. I try to set a goal of 100 books a year. And I will include every book that I read, whether that's ones for homeschool or ones for, just for my own enjoyment. And so I divided the books I've read into 3 categories. I have devotional, nonfiction, and fiction. And just wanted to show you the favorites I had from each of those. So My favorite devotion that I did in the past year, because I did many of them, was one I did with my kids called More Than Anything, a study of on idolatry. It was just so beautifully eye-opening, and any adult will learn something from this because it goes far beyond just looking at physical items that we turn into idols, things that we look to as more important than God. And maybe not intentionally. I mean, I don't think many of us look at these things and say, oh, well, forget you, Lord, I'm going to do this. But it happens. It happens without us meaning to. But this goes beyond the physical things, and it talks about things that weren't even on my radar as things that could be idols. For example, work, security, knowledge as an idol, traditions as an idol, your children, your marriage, friendships. I got to those sections and I thought, whoa, wait a minute. and and it was really eye-opening, very, very eye-opening. So if you'd like a good devotional to do, this one was 5 weeks long. So, it'll only take you a little over a month to do it. And you can find it on Daily Grace Co., especially if you watch for their $5 and $10 sales. This is usually included in one of those sales. But I think regular price, it's still only like a $20 devotional. But it was fantastic. And I just had a lot of personal growth from that one. Now, in nonfiction books, I have always been a huge fan of Sally Clarkson. I first found her Mom Heart Moments devotional, and man, that was a great year-long devotional to do. And so I naturally wanted to read everything she's ever written. And I found this one called The Life-Giving Home, Creating a Place of Belonging and Becoming. This is written by Sally Clarkson and her daughter, Sarah. And they take turns in the book, each of them taking a chapter, and it runs through the months of the year, so January through December. And it talks about things that they have done in their homes to create this welcoming and comfortable space. Like when you say home, what does home mean to you? Do you get a picture of somewhere that you could just walk into and you just immediately feel comforted? Do you feel at rest? Do you feel peace at home? And they have striven to create that environment in their home, because by creating that environment, they can be better parents, they can be better siblings, they can better minister to their children, they can invite people in and give them a place to feel comfortable and expand their ministry that way as well. And nothing that they mention in the book is something that is out of the realm of what anybody can do. I mean, they talk about having tea handy. So whenever somebody comes over, they can offer a pot of tea and a baked good. Setting out fresh flowers, having a quiet reading space, putting reading materials or interesting art in different places. And they talk about how they did that and then why it worked in order to create this home environment. So it really just got me thinking about kind of my role as a wife and a mother, and what it is I want to create as far as a feeling in our own home space. Does it feel like a place of peace? Now, in fiction books, I have read so many fiction books this year. It was actually really, really hard to narrow it down to, I narrowed it down to two favorites, but the two that I thought were great choices. I read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So this is kind of a mystery. So you have a character named Aidan Bishop, and he wakes up. He has no idea how he got where he is or what's going on. And he kind of goes through his day. And at the end of it, there is a woman named Evelyn Hardcastle, and she dies. And there's this whole mystery surrounding like what happened. Well, he wakes up the next day and he's in a different person's body, like among the guests at this manor. And he finds out that he's kind of on a quest to figure out, solve this murder or prevent this murder if he can. And each day he wakes up in a different person's body. So he's getting information and perspectives that he didn't have before. And every guest is different in terms of, what's happening to them. And the ending was not something that I expected. It completely surprised me, But once I got into it, man, I could not put this book down. I mean, I read for like hours and hours in one evening and finished the whole book. So it was just, if you enjoy interesting mysteries, I think you would find this one to be a good one. Now, the other one was kind of a cross between a historical fiction and a fantasy book. And this is called A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians. Now, I say historical fiction because this takes place right before when the French Revolution kind of kicked off. We are introduced to people who, really existed in history. We're meeting, we meet William Pitt, who was prime minister in Britain. We're meeting members of parliament there. We're meeting officials and famous names from France. We see the storming of the Bastille and what's going on overseas in the British colonies and all of this. So we have real people from history, but there is this overarching story about magic. So if you think about it, like imagine if anyone could be born with magical abilities. Anyone could. But only the aristocrats were allowed to actually use it. In fact, anybody who was a commoner that was born with magic had a wristband put on that if they tried to use magic, it would burn, and then the Knights Templar would come and arrest them, and they'd go to jail. And it didn't matter if they used magic to feed their families. It didn't matter if they used it to commit a crime, or if they were, maybe they were a fire mage and they were just trying to create a fire so they wouldn't freeze to death. Didn't matter. You went to jail. And eventually people started to feel like they should have the right to be able to use the inherent talents and skills that they have to be able to pursue their own happiness. Does this sound familiar? And it's teaching history, but with just a different twist to it. It's looking at, well, what if it was the right to do magic versus the right to just pursue happiness? And so it tells the story in that way. It is so interesting how they incorporate this because, real events from Europe in that time, this whole Age of Enlightenment, are incorporated into this story. I mean, the author has to have like a brilliant knowledge of history because it's just seamless how they make it all flow together. All right, and that's my list of favorite things from 2022. I will link down below in the description box all of the products and websites and apps that I mentioned in today's video. So if you have an interest in checking any of these out yourself, you can easily find them. Thank you, as always, for joining me for today's video. If you enjoy these videos, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below to my channel so you can be notified when I post new content. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you in the next video.